Coming up, the Committee to Protect Journalists that usually has to fight countries like Iran and North Korea writes an open letter to Obama demanding better media protection from him. That's in the Associated Press. Also, feds lack the data to determine how well key Obamacare provisions are working. Oh, they're working quite well. Also, we're going to be breaking down FBI gags state and local police on capabilities of cell phone spy gear. That's in The Guardian. It's also coming out in the Washington Post. It's also being reported on that 11 million illegals are being given free Obamacare when basically no one else is. It's only an incentive to get poor populations here. And there's another report out that huge new waves of destitute immigrants are now set to start flooding the United States. And that's what I've been saying all along. Just wait until this wave gets here and is given amnesty. They're not even having immigration hearings for at least 3 years. Some have been set for 5 years out. That's de facto amnesty. Just wait now till the next wave hits, and then the next wave, and the next wave, and the next wave. And they're only there to do one thing: vote to take those guns, vote for North American Union. And that was in the news yesterday. 90+% of the illegals are going to vote for the Democrats. Republicans' answer is to say, we'll legalize you. No, that's not going to work either. Now, can I go to Mexico and get freebies? No. If I get caught doing something illegal in Mexico, I'll be held like that Marine for years, tortured, and no one will complain. No one will say it's racist. No, only America has to go along with all this. So that's coming up as well. Google is severing ties with conservative group over climate change. Microsoft has as well. Yeah, Google wouldn't let us sell on their Google shopping cart, even though they approached us about doing a cart years ago. The Obama deception, they suspended it. And they said it's racist. You can't criticize a black man. That's right, if it's our Lord and Savior, Obama, to quote Jamie Foxx. Because I'm not calling him Lord and Savior. That would be blasphemous. I'm quoting Jamie Foxx. But Peter Thiel, the billionaire tech entrepreneur, is on a mission to cheat death. That's coming up at the bottom of the hour. But now, let's go to your calls. Aaron in Missouri, you're on the air. Go ahead.
Hey, Alex, can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
How you doing, Alex?
Good.
I've been listening since 2006. You were the first to wake me up. This is the first time I've ever been able to call. So, but going back to the last caller for a second, in 2006, I didn't see anybody wearing any sort of, revolutionary libertarian shirts at all. I actually had one made on the front that said, "Turn off the TV and read." On the back it said, "Welcome to the New World Order." But I was wondering, I'm actually wearing a Moan Labe shirt right now. I was wondering if Liam McAdoo would approach me. But,
that's a good one. What I'm saying is that when you wear liberty-based attire, you will meet like-minded people, and that will let you form a community in your area.
Right. The main reason I called is about this plane being shot down over Israel, and I haven't really heard much about it at all on the TV. This morning.
Well, it was shot down in the edge of Israeli airspace, they claim, and Israel has been giving support, people that run Israel, to ISIS there over the Golan Heights. That's been in the Jerusalem Post. And just like I'm angry that our government's doing it or anybody else is doing it, I'm upset that Israel's doing that. And now even AP reports that the jet was bombing al-Qaeda forces, and Israel's response was to shoot it down. And Israel's been supplying ambulance and medical field support there in the Golan Heights to the jihadis, just like Turkey's been doing that, bordering. It's like Israel, Turkey, the United States, France, England, Germany, Saudi Arabia, Qatar. They're all ganged up on Syria, who didn't do anything. And in my book, you don't gang up on a country who hadn't done anything to bring them down. And then say, well, al-Qaeda's evil, but we're going to let them take over because, they're better than Assad. No, they're not. It's immoral to start fights. It's immoral to do this, and it shows what we've turned into. Aaron, thank you for the call. Rambo in Florida, thanks for holding. You're on the air.
Thanks, Alex. Great show so far. I'm originally from Morocco, but live here in the States, but been back and forth between here in North Africa for the past few years. And I think it's obvious for people, if they want to know how this plays out in Syria, I believe it's Libya 2.0. I mean, we've openly seen what happened in Libya when you murder and remove a sovereign dictator.
The goal was destabilization. It's now a failed state. They now get to loot all the infrastructure. There's now no electricity. Tens of thousands die every 6 months. And they admit it's, quote, 10 times worse, was the Washington Post article I saw a few months ago there than it was, and that Obama screwed up. No, they didn't screw up. The plan is bring these continents down. I'm sorry, I'm ranting. Go ahead.
No, you're exactly right. And just two more quick points. Basically, I mean, it's not publicized, but it's pretty well known that fifth group, since prior to 2001 actually, but especially after 2001, fifth group has, establishing AFRICOM and the rest of it. In the southern part of these countries, Morocco, Algeria, Tunis, Libya, Egypt, and the southern, less densely populated areas, they've been setting up these groups for years. For 4 years. You never hear about Moroccan training groups, but they're down there in the Western Sahara doing what they got to do. And just one more quick point. Actually, last August, on the 16th and 17th, I was up in Chicago. I just want to get your point on this. I actually got a chance to speak to Louis Farrakhan for about 5-6 minutes, and we were talking about Libya, and I actually, just brought up your breakdown of Libya, which I echo. I agree completely with your breakdown. And his response was extremely positive, and actually mentioned that they break down a number of your clips in their little meetings that they have in the mornings. That have you ever thought about getting Louis Farrakhan on the show? And I'll get off now here.
We've contacted Louis Farrakhan, his people, and they said that they're aware of our work and they agree with a lot of it, and that he might think about someday coming on the show. I know he's a very polarizing figure. A lot of people have demonized him. I don't agree with some of his statements, but a lot of it is meant to be brash to get people's attention. He agreed with me on Piers Morgan and is against having our guns taken. So Farrakhan has made statements about the show before. The Nation of Islam exposes vaccines. They say blacks should spend their money in their neighborhoods and build their own society. I agree with that. I don't think you should add the statement, that the Arabs and the Asians are in there, blood sucking off of them. I mean, if somebody doesn't build a business, people don't shop at black businesses, then that's their fault. But I do know that. But listen, it's not just the Nation of Islam that watches this show and listens. It's the Japanese government. It's the Russian government. It's our government. I'm not bragging. It's true that we're the #1 show in the U.S. military, hands down. And it's not just the content, because the military listens and goes, man, this guy knows what he's talking about. Other shows dumb down their content. It's not that I'm even that smart or good. It's that I raise our content to the level part way towards the military level. People go, oh, yeah, military intelligence. Ha, 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 they're a bunch of idiots. No, they're not. The military, the non-commissioned officers, the officers, does anybody have any idea how complex, sophisticated, how hardworking those people are? It's just unbelievable. That's why the system is so scared of them, because they know they can hear a show like this and understand it. That's why police, despite all their problems with the system trying to twist them, are natural allies of the liberty movement, because they're uncompartmentalized, because they're where the rubber meets the road. They're seeing it all. So they hear a show like this, it clicks just like that, because they may disagree on this point or that point, but at the end of the day, they know they're getting something more sophisticated and closer to reality than you're getting anywhere else. Because we really study. We really try to know what's happening. Anybody could do this, okay? But you got to do it for 20 years. It's the long-term knowledge base that matters. And so, I mean, I know that the Police Secret Society out in L.A. listens to the show. I know that the Masons listen to the show. I know because we know what we're talking about. And that's why people want to take us down. It's why so many people don't like us, is because we do have the ear of people in major corporations and people in the government. I was at an event giving a speech Saturday, KC Research, and I was going, I know that guy from TV. I know that person. There were former senators there. There were heads of oil companies there. And the conversations, they wanted me to go play poker with them, but I was too tired afterwards at a private party. But I was sitting there, and I'm not name dropping, folks. It's just that I don't ever even get out in society. I mean, I was at an event, the speaker right after T. Boone Pickens, and I was invited to all those events and meetings in Dallas, and I didn't even go to the cocktail parties after that because at a certain point, I mean, I can't sit around with a bunch of oil men. Or at least I thought I couldn't. I was sitting around with these oil men, and they knew more about stuff than I did. They were telling me about CIA operations, naval intelligence stuff they'd done when they were 25. They were telling me about 9/11 being an inside job, and these are people I knew were friends with George W. Bush. I mean, I'm sitting there looking at people, and I'm like, wait a minute, what? Yeah, let's go play poker. And they were like, no, we know it's true. They're all concerned. They're all getting ready to leave, folks. They're building bases in Chile with underground facilities 200 miles from any town. That's what this meeting was. See, I always keep the most fantastic to last. They've already got it up and running. Golf courses and beautiful facilities on top, underground bunkers below. They're like, come with us to the bunker. Meanwhile, I have to sit here and try to convince the public I'm not making this stuff up. Oh, boy. We'll be right back. Stay with us. Yeah, the billionaires, the rich people, they're buying gold bars, cash, and moving to armored redoubts in the middle of nowhere all over the globe. And making deals with local governments to protect them. Meanwhile, here back in America in the West, government's building bunkers, buying armored vehicles, helicopters, drones, and preparing for civil war. While the communists and the socialists, run by a very small select group of mega capital that's tax exempt, are trying to start civil wars in the West, especially in the United States, between the police and the public. And then they'll use the crisis of the Civil War to bring in total draconian control. Al-Qaeda menacing the West is just the pretext to get the stuff in place for the Civil War. And we continue to tell you exactly what's going to transpire. Just like we said a few years ago, then the Al-Qaeda forces will have their name changed. I don't know how we even knew they would do that. It just made sense to confuse everybody. And then they would start attacking the West. And then that would be used to take our freedoms. This is not rocket science. It's just the public's never thought like a Machiavellian manipulator. And people that are awake go, but it doesn't make sense. It's so obvious. That's because you're awake. It's like saying to a person who's awake, well, I couldn't walk right up and slap you in the face, but if somebody's asleep, you can. If someone's asleep, they're asleep. They don't see a brown recluse climb up on the bed and come over and bite them. If I'm awake and a brown recluse comes walking right over to my hand, this has happened to me before in my house, out in the woods, that's a brown recluse. That sucker's got a fiddle on its back. Well, I'm going to smash it. You get a piece of paper. Look at that, kids. That's a brown recluse. Because I'm awake. I'm looking around. I don't go out to some old farmhouse or something that I hadn't been at in 6 months and just climb into a bed that's in there. I check in there to see if there's spiders in there. And guess what? A lot of times there is. See, they call that being a conspiracy theorist. Not trusting big government, not trusting black uniforms, not trusting open surveillance, that's like going in a farmhouse and not trusting a bed that nobody's been in 6 months. Or shoes you hadn't put on in a year. I can't tell you how many times there's been a millipede or a spider or a scorpion in my boots growing up in Texas. Let me tell you, I was about 4 years old and watched one of my buddy's dads, Tim Baxter, stick his foot in the boot when we got out of the RV in the morning hunting. And there was a spider and a scorpion in the shoe. And they both bit him. He got bit, got one out. Oh my, this is terrible. Put stuff on it, stuck his foot back in, and got hit by the wolf spider. I said I'd take calls, and I'm digressing into stories. Not trusting a big tyrannical government is like not sticking your hand down rattlesnake holes in Arizona. That's all we're saying here is, whoa, historically, we know what this means. We know where this goes. And then billionaires and 100 millionaires and elites have been fleeing the West for about 6 years. And they're just sitting back waiting for it to blow. I told the story about running into John Wayne's family who were moving out of Wimberley about 4 years ago. Moving to Costa Rica because of the new tax laws coming in. But more than that, the elite have all given the word that they are going to screw this country over royal. And that's some valuable information, I think, for all of you to have out there. Remember about 2 years ago, they asked Ashton Kutcher, or however you say his name, what he was doing, and he said, I'm exercising and training and preparing for collapse. Now, I don't know if collapse is imminent or whether it's even inevitable, but the preponderance of everything is leaning towards that, and the derivatives and other things are untenable. So I don't know where it's all going exactly, but it's not good. But we're not being negative. We're admitting the problems that we've got so we can have a soft landing. From the water table to our soils to the atmosphere itself, our world is becoming more and more toxic each and every day. But it's not just the air outside that's toxic. Indoor air has been shown to have 2 to 5 times higher concentrations of pollutants than even outdoor air. And most Americans spend 90% of their time inside using toxic chemicals within their homes. There are more than 42 million smokers in the United States. Well over 1,000 types of mold and mildew linked to numerous conditions. And don't forget the fact that 6 million Americans live with pets they're allergic to as well. When I began to research these statistics, it was clear to me it was time to start cleansing my lungs in order to combat the toxic environment that we cannot escape, but that we can fight back against. Made with organic and wild cultivated herbs and manufactured in the USA, the new InfoWars Life Lung Cleanse is here in a convenient spray bottle that can be brought with you throughout any toxic environment. Now available exclusively at InfoWarsLife.com or by calling toll-free 888-253-31. White House fence jumper on psychiatric drugs. Was on psychiatric drugs. Ebola efforts in a state of complete chaos. Special report we're going to be airing. Pentagon cites a new terror threat as ISIS war gets underway. And as ISIS says they will now attack America. That wasn't hard to predict. And no politician will get in trouble, I guess, when they come right across the border and do it or fly in. No, we'll just lose more freedoms, and they'll call the politicians heroes that funded ISIS. That's what a zombie population gets, I guess. Obama ignores Constitution again to launch Syria attack with no legal basis, Paul Joseph Watson's article. A detailed RT report with video of what happened with the bombing in Syria. And we're also going to get into a whole bunch of other stories that have been breaking up there on the site as well. Like, remind me, guys, to cover the Peter Thiel piece from Endgame. That is absolutely essential to get that done. Damien in Arizona, thanks for holding.
Yeah, how you doing, Alex? I'd like to address the whole ISIS and caliphate thing in terms of Joe Farah of World Net Daily. You know how they always said terrorism is a tactic and you can't beat a verb or a noun or whatever. So now, I mean, conveniently, they name it a state. So it's a terrorist state. So now they actually have a geopolitical reason to specifically attack it as a physical entity. So I think it's a little bit of a coup in their PR department.
And then they can say that the Islamic State has gone to any country they want to attack.
Exactly. So now it's it's a literal boogeyman. Before, terrorism is like, some nebulous, arbitrary thing. Now it's a physical thing. But I'd like to address Joe Farah. I love his site on a lot of the stuff. But your initial instinct, I believe, is right. There's a reason why I always end up coming back to your site, because there are people who specialize in, minutia of like domestic or foreign issues, but you do a very good meta. And Tarpley, as much as I love his geopolitical acumen, the guy, when it comes to economics, he's, frankly, economy. I mean, let's face it. He's a Hamiltonian American school specifically, but he's he still likes to say. But when it comes to Joe Farah, I love all this stuff in terms of domestic stuff, but this whole caliphate thing is really overblown because, the New World Order uses this as a tool. So just because they say,
absolutely. They have wound up the caliphate. I'm just saying it was WorldNet Daily that I saw first talking about it.
But the thing is, I think WorldNet Daily, Joseph Farah, I love the guy, but he's a Lebanese Syrian Christian. I lived and worked in Lebanon for a little bit, so I'm kind of familiar with the Maronite Christian traditions, and I am also aware with American Lebanese Christian communities' view of that entire world. The whole caliphate thing, this is a problem. I mean, and a lot of the guys on the WorldNet Daily side, they're always about, it's all about communism, it's all about socialism. And you, who study all this stuff with the whole New World Order, you understand the meta, that they only use that as a tool. So just because ISIS, CIA, or New World Order, intel creation, paint the entire, map with their photo, with their flag on it, doesn't make it so, I mean, just because they say, oh, yeah, we're going to take over the entire world, ooh, booga booga, you know what I mean?
I agree with you. The narrative here, and what's important to understand is the truth narrative versus their fraud narrative, their deception narrative, is that now their narrative is wearing thin, and people are going, wait a minute, we're going to arm ISIS to then bomb ISIS? And more prominent people are speaking out against it. I appreciate your call. I want to go to Mick in Australia here in just a moment. But if you look at what they're doing in the Middle East, notice that Egypt has been quietly for the last few months been bombing al-Qaeda, ISIS strongholds in Libya. And our government has been trying to overthrow that government because it's secular. They got rid of the dictator, but it's still the military. And I'm not defending a military coup, but strongmen is all that tend to work in the Middle East these days. And the military doesn't let them chop the Christians' heads off. And you can go be a tourist there, and you can have a job there and have some decent freedom there compared to being under Islamic State Light, which is the Muslim Brotherhood. And so I've just learned the players and what's happening here. So you've got Egypt bombing al-Qaeda, and you've got Syria bombing al-Qaeda, and then Israel shoots down today the Syrian fighter bomber that was bombing al-Qaeda. And then there are folks out there that literally worship Israel. And whatever the politician running Israel says, they would decry some Jew in Israel that didn't totally agree with the prime minister over there or their leaders. And it just becomes really one-dimensional and mindless. When I'm like, hey, Israel shouldn't be supporting ISIS, neither should Turkey, neither should England, neither should be the U.S. It's like, why don't you like Israel? I'm allowed to have my opinion and say that I don't think funding al-Qaeda is good. You've got Egypt and the United Arab Emirates that are bombing, and then you've got other countries that aren't liking it in the area. I mean, I think Egypt's doing the right thing bombing these people. And they're not starting a fight. They know this group's already been attacking them inside Egypt. Let's go to Mick. Mick, I forgot you were there again from Australia. I appreciate you trying to get back in and get on air. So from Australia, you're on the air. Go ahead.
G'day, Alex.
Hey, buddy.
I want to talk about, the effect of ISIS being such a pawn used by our governments. In Australia, we've had our Prime Minister make some rather provocative and, very scary remarks in the last couple of days.
Yes.
To the effect of, regrettably, for some time, the delicate balance between freedom and security may have to shift. I mean, that sounds to me a la Nigel Farage, which has come up just recently as well. So, but they're looking at changing our laws basically to these new anti-terror laws or legislations.
As if they haven't already taken enough of your liberties in Australia. And I, too, am deeply concerned about the liberty leader of Europe, Nigel Farage, coming out and saying, I'm sad to say, we're going to give up liberty for security, the opposite of Benjamin Franklin. And then now your leaders are saying that. They've been told, get in line and go along with this, when our own governments literally help create these groups. It's just sickening.
Exactly, Alex. It's just ridiculous.
You know who's not saying it? Rand Paul.
Rand Paul, no. Rand Paul's, I think he's an excellent statesman.
Well, you can score political points like Farage has done and like your leader's done. And, you know, I like some of the stuff your new leader's doing, you know, getting rid of carbon taxes and stuff. But it's easy political points to score to say, yeah, we're going to take out ISIS, got to take a few of your liberties to do it, but that's what we're going to do. It's all baloney. Where do you think it's going?
Well, I think it's going to a police state worldwide, to be quite honest.
It's standardized worldwide because the New World Order is standardized. It's global. But the liberty movement's global. You're evidence of that. Calling from Australia, Mick. Thank you so much for holding to get on. Third hour is coming up. I'm going to finish up with calls in this segment and a little short next segment. Then I've got a piece dealing with the singularity from my 2007 film Endgame that dovetails with this headline, Peter Thiel, the billionaire tech entrepreneur on a mission to cheat death. That's coming up at about 8 after next hour. Then Ebola chaos, a new report just filed by John Bound. We're going to premiere here. And then we have an expanded, we did a piece last week that was about 4 minutes long on Ebola, tying it into 12 Monkeys and into films like V for Vendetta. We've now expanded it out to 7 minutes with the invasion of Africa, with the whole smokescreen that's happening there of Ebola. And then we're going to tie that in, if we have time before our guest joins us, to Joe Bigg's special report, Africa Smokescreen. So this and more today. Right now, let's go to Steve in Virginia. Steve, thanks for holding. You're on the air.
Thank you, Alex. I've been listening to you via shortwave radio for many, many years. And I thought today I would comment on the Syrian situation. When President Obama ordered airstrikes on Syrian soil, he unilaterally declared war against Syria, which is a direct violation of the War Powers Act, and this is a high crime in which Congress should vote to impeach him, and so should the Senate. And further, I think they should censor him so that the American people will no longer hear a Chicago used salesman oral masturbator. It's time stuff has got to go. He's doing anything he wants, and he can do it with fiat.
That's right. He's already legalized the illegals by fiat and then said, oh, but he hasn't. He's already bringing in the carbon taxes without congressional approval. And Paul Watson wrote the article this morning. It's clear in the Constitution, and we quote it, Obama ignores Congress again to launch Syria attack with no legal basis. President commits impeachable offense. And he's attacking a sovereign country, claiming he's attacking a group that's attacking that country, and saying that if Syria shoots back, he'll bomb them. I mean, it is just so wild. And if he gets away with it, he'll do more. In fact, Congressman Justin Amash is quoted in there saying it's irresponsible and immoral that instead of debating and voting on war, congressional leaders chose to recess Congress for nearly 2 months. Yeah, they advocated their responsibility, but that's a great point. We just sit here watching the imperial presidency. Even Jonathan Turley, who's a big liberal, says Obama has done about 3 times what Bush did, unconstitutional. And Bush broke records because the power structure is sick of the Constitution. It wants to do whatever it wants to. Go ahead.
Yeah, like I say, it's government out of control. And, you know, this ISIS situation is very much similar to what Fabius did against Hannibal. They used this asymmetrical warfare and the guerrilla tactics, and they eventually wore down Hannibal. And it's the same thing that the Fabian socialists do here in this country, too. And the only way you can defeat asymmetrical warfare is with asymmetrical warfare. And thing of it is, I just wonder how many Arab Americans are in our armed forces. I think they should be used for this guerrilla asymmetrical warfare to defeat ISIS.
Well, obviously, but they're not going to let them do that because it's all a fake war on ISIS, a smokescreen to give them weapons to take out Assad. They're going to blow up a few tanks here, a few armored vehicles there, a few Toyota trucks here. It's just total mind war against us. And it's so sophisticated because it's so over the top. Sometimes the simplest lie is the best. You just repeat it long enough, as Hitler said, or Joseph Goebbels actually said it, the big lie speech. That was his minister of propaganda. All right, third hour, ladies and gentlemen, straight ahead. I'm Alexander Emmerich Jones. Just want to make sure the globalists get my name straight. I want to have my name like right there on the Constitution. The John Hancock, put it loud and bold. Because I don't want to just be on all the list. I want to be at the top of the list. Well, the efforts to contain Ebola are in a complete state of chaos. That's the headline on Infowars.com. And right under that, the New York Times says the CDC says their computer models show between 500 and 50,000 on the low end getting it in the next 4 months, and 1.4 million on the high end. Top German virologist said 2 weeks ago, 5 million by year's end. I don't know, but this certainly has got to be 20, 30, 40 times bigger than any other outbreak ever. This is just getting absolutely crazy. Oh, boy. And if you're a radio listener, we're putting everything we say up on screen for TV viewers. Free streams at Infowars.com/show. Let's go ahead and talk to John in Oklahoma. John, you're on the air. Thanks for calling.
Yeah, Alex, good to hear you on the air on a local program now for a change.
Yeah, I should have plugged that. You're listening on 1640 AM KZLS. And I should have asked, do they carry this little 5-minute no man's land segment?
Yeah, it's got some good guests like yourself on there, you know.
That's awesome.
Look, boy, where do I start? I was uncertain about the situation in Syria until I heard from a war correspondent who said that the Christians were actively backing the Syrian government. And I said, wow, you know, these people only can find some kind of protection and justice under a secular government, which unfortunately our president is trying to destroy all the secular governments in the Middle East, starting with Libya and then
Egypt,
and now Syria, and replace those with the fundamentalist, radical, murdering type people that are running this.
They really are crazed-eyed head choppers.
Yeah, I just don't understand it. Now we're going to what? Continue to give arms to the rebels in the Syria conflict? You know what we should be doing is backing away and start arming the Christians in the Middle East. And let them.
I agree. We should arm whoever is being attacked and whoever the underdog is. And that's what America used to do. I mean, it is so immoral to be in there trying to overthrow Assad when he had been trying to democratize and work with us. And I'm not saying he's an angel. He was a good guy compared to Gaddafi, and then Gaddafi was a good guy compared to al-Qaeda. I mean, why would our government try to overthrow Egypt, too? Why do they want to put these people in charge?
Yeah, well, you know, life is cheap in the Middle East. You can have somebody killed for $200. You can buy somebody's teenage daughter for $500. So these people live on a whole different a paradigm than we do. You know, they just don't respect life in the Middle East for the most part. Also, I'm reading a book currently by, what's his name? The Minnesota ex-governor. You know,
yeah, Ventura.
What? Ventura, yeah, Jesse Ventura. American Conspiracies. And it's absolutely got my hair standing on end in my back of my head because the CIA, ever since its creation, has been involved within this country in numerous conspiracies. The JFK assassination, the Martin Luther King assassination, the Malcolm X assassination, any number of other activities that are nefarious, that are against the law. The CIA has got blood on their hands all the way up to their elbows on this.
No, that's right. And then they tried to assassinate Ventura's character with the made-up Chris Kyle thing that he said that Ventura was glad SEALs died and knocked him out. So Ventura sued him and said, where's your witnesses? And he didn't have any, and he lost a jury trial. And then people said, oh, how dare you sue a widow because Kyle got killed. It was an insurance policy with News Corps. I mean, what was Ventura supposed to do? He didn't do that. That was a lie. And so, by the way, Jesse was on about a month ago, and he said he wanted to come back on in September. I forgot to get him back on. We'll see if we can still get him back on before he turns around and goes down to Mexico for the winter. I don't blame him wanting to get out of those Minnesota winters. Thank you so much, John. Yeah, it's exciting to have 1640 in Oklahoma City. Folks need to spread the word about that station and sponsor it. That is key. My friends, Alex Jones here to tell you about some of the most important information concerning you and your family's health. Radiation levels have more than doubled in the last 60 years in the Northern Hemisphere from all of the nuclear testing and radiological accidents. Radioactive contamination is now in most of the food supply. There's only 2 ways to avoid this. Move south of the equator or properly protect your thyroid with nascent iodine. Looking to protect my family, I've done deep research. Nascent iodine is the purest, cleanest, absolute best form of iodine to protect yourself and your family. It's made right here in the USA, completely non-GMO. I searched out the best quality and now have developed a double-strength form of nascent iodine, exclusively available at InfoWarsLife.com. Nascent iodine is on record as one of the only safe ways to detox from fluoride poisoning. Survival Shield Nascent Iodine. Secure your super high-quality nascent iodine today at InfoWarsLife.com. That's InfoWarsLife.com.